All right, let's go. This video, we're going to be talking about my plans, my future plans for this YouTube channel, I guess. So at this moment, I have finished recording the Dreadnought, which was the final scenario in the single core progression series video. If you remember, when I started this series, it was for people who had a single core, or to show that if you only had a single core or only wanted to play with a single core, you could beat every quest in the game with the cards that were available at the time the quest was released. So it was kind of like a video series geared towards helping people get over certain hurdles. But as the series progressed, I realized, hey, this is pretty fun. I think I want to play every scenario. But I skipped some at the beginning, if you remember. I only was playing the ones that people seemed to struggle with, and the easier quests I didn't play. So the quests I skipped are right here. Right here. It's not that many. I think I can go back and fill in these holes. This isn't going to take too long. But these are the easier quests. So I was trying to think, well, what can I do to make this interesting? Because I still want to play it progression style, but beating these quests isn't really a big challenge. And I started thinking about how I've been keeping track of my cards. And what I want to do is take the cards that I haven't used in the series that would have been available at the time of the quest's release and try to somehow use those cards in that quest. I want to try to use as many cards as I can. So this is my player card collection, and as you can see, it's an absolute mess. Here are the lore cards that I did not use, and then underneath it is Spirit and Heroes. But you can see right there, that's Tactics Baragon. I used Tactics Baragon in the series. I just have alt arts, duplicate copies, based on various means in which I've acquired extra cards. Like this, I think, came with the Fellowship kit that came with the Belrog playmat. So I have additional cards, and I also have, like, if I put a one of a card in a deck, well, the other two copies are still in my did not use collection. Down the center there, those are just ALEP cards, additional cards from core sets, because I have multiple core sets. So I just store them like that. And I have actually a lot more player cards that you can't even see in these pictures here, because I just store them separately. But here's Leadership and Tactics and Neutral. And yeah, Celebriant Stone, A-Rod, Williador. I know all of those cards made it into at least one deck. These are just the copies that didn't make it. So it's not a perfect representation of every card that didn't make it into the series, because the copies that didn't make it into the series are also still in my original storage. And of course, any cards that were released later in the progression are overly represented in the original storage, because I just never had a chance to play them. Here are all the cards I used. Now this to me looks underwhelming, but it's actually a lot of cards. These sleeves hold a lot of cards. So the white sleeved cards are the heroes, and then the blue ones were from a Dale deck that I just used blue sleeves because most of the Dale cards were already in blue sleeves. But as you can see, I can barely move these cards. There's hardly any space left. And this is Leadership, Lore, and Neutral. And then the sleeve, I'm sorry, not the sleeve, the shoe that has less cards is Spirit and Tactics. So you can kind of get a look at which sphere I use the most. It's actually, to me, pretty even. I think Spirit wins. I might have used the most different Spirit cards. I thought Lore would have, and there's definitely a lot of Lore cards. But yeah, there's the heroes, some Tactics cards there that I can flip through quickly. So these are all the cards I used. If it was a one of or a two of, it went in here, and then the other copy stayed in my original storage. This was really nice. I would highly recommend, if you're planning on playing progression for a lot of quests in a row, anytime you use a card, stick it into a different storage system, and you'll be able to kind of keep track of the cards you've already used, and you'll be able to pull them out of the separate storage system quickly, and then build your next deck with it. It really saved me a lot of time when I was building these decks, because I basically knew where the cards were that I was using over and over again. I quickly grabbed them. I kept my Dwarf cards together. I kept my Sylvan cards together. I kept my Outlands cards together. when I was building decks, so I could easily just grab those, and it worked. But this is driving me nuts. Like, this is a disaster. This is an absolute mess. I cannot wait to break these down and put them back where they go in alphabetical order, but I'm not going to do that until I've played the quests that I've skipped, because I want to easily see which cards I never used, and those are going to be in my original storage. So that is my plan, and that is why I am filling in the holes next. So that means the decks I'm going to be making to beat these, easier quests, they might not be the best. Like, I guess if you don't know I'm doing this for these quests, you might be wondering, why did you include this card? Why did you include that card? Well, I'm going to include cards that I didn't play with just to get them on the table. Because why not, right? Why not? Do something interesting, I think. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. I'm going to be filling in these holes, and then the progression series will be complete except for the Saga stuff. So I haven't touched any of the Lord of the Rings Saga stuff, and I did that on purpose. I figured I'd want to play some sort of campaign at some point, and I'm still trying to decide how I want to play the campaign. I could play it with every card that exists and make it thematic, or maybe not play campaign and just play all the Saga quests with, like, okay, here's a deck that's perfectly tuned to beat this quest. I could play it campaign mode and try to keep it as thematic as possible. I know I don't want to play it progression style as I did for this series. I'm kind of tired of playing that progression. I've played a lot of games with this progression, so I don't think I want to do that. But then FFG throws a wrinkle at us and says, hey, we're reprinting the Sagas. So there's like now a new progression I could do where it's the revised core, the starter decks, then the repackage, yeah, Angmar Awakened cycle, Angmar. I cannot say that word. I just can't say it. Okay, so the core, the starter decks, the repackaged cycle, and then the new Saga. So I'd have those 4 sets. And then, see, the reason I don't know about this way, though, is because I'm going to need to record ahead of the releases to try to basically have videos releasing, and I'm not 100% sure what the next cycle is. So is it going to go, we're getting the first 6 quests of the Lord of the Rings cycle, and then we're going to get Dream Chaser, and then we're going to get the next 6 quests of the Saga? I don't know. I have no idea. So I can't really predict what cards are going to be available when. So I don't know if I want to do it that way. Basically, I want to play the Saga quests. I'm trying to figure out how. And I have a lot of time to think about this. So if you're watching this video and you're like, hey, I have a great idea, maybe something I haven't thought of, something you've done that you think is great, something you would like to see done, please comment below. Okay, so like I was saying, my cards are in 2 separate collections, let's say, including the heroes. And so I thought I would end this video by talking about the heroes that never made it into the progression series, because I did use quite a few. I used 80 heroes, but that still leaves 23 I did not use. So let's take a look at the 23 heroes I did not use. Some of these shouldn't be a surprise, and some of them I was shocked that I did not use this hero. Like, how did I never use a certain hero? So let's take a look at those. All right, the heroes that didn't make it into the series. So the first grouping of heroes are heroes that I knew I would probably never play. And a lot of them are because they are multiplayer heroes. So you got Brand, Son of Bane, Tactics, 10 threat, 2/3, 2/3, ranged. Then after he attacks and defeats an enemy engaged with another player, choose and ready one of that player's characters. Well, that makes no sense for a solo game. His ability isn't doing anything. You might as well just play Legolas. So at least something happens when you make an attack with a base stat of 3. Same thing kind of goes for Bard the Bowman. 11 threat, tactics, 2/3, 2/4, ranged. When Bard the Bowman makes a ranged attack, the enemy he attacks gets -2 defense until the end of the phase. Both are good abilities, just not really useful in a solo game. The Bow of You maybe could have went on Bard, but yeah, I just never got him into play. And then Dory, 10 threat tactics, 1/2/2/5, Sentinel, dwarf. Response: after another hero is declared a defender, exhaust Dory to add his defense to the defending hero's defense for this attack. I am not going to build a solo deck that has 2 heroes dedicated to defending. That's just not going to happen. The next 2 heroes probably are not a surprise either. The Spirit Hobbits. So we got Fatty, 7 threat, 1/1/2/3 action. Exhaust Fatty to choose an enemy in the staging area and raise your threat by that enemy's threat until the end of the phase. That enemy does not contribute its threat. Limit once per round. It's hard to make good cases for why this is a good ability. I mean, the threat in the staging area is what would cause you to raise your threat, and he's just making you do that anyway. He's basically a treachery. And then Spirit Pippin, 6 threat, 2/1/1/2. If each hero you control has the Hobbit trait, Pippin gains response after an enemy engages you. Raise your threat by 3 to return it to the staging area. Until the end of the round, that enemy does not make engagement checks. Who cares? That is such a corner case ability. It's really terrible that you have to have all your heroes as hobbits for him to do anything. No thank you. All right, and my final hero that I knew I was never going to use is Lore Faramir. I just really don't like this hero. 11 threat, 2/2/2/5, Gondor Ranger Noble ranged. Faramir gets +1 attack for each enemy in the staging area. Again, not great for solo, because what are you attacking if you're trapping these enemies up in staging? Why does he have 11 threat if you're trying to keep enemies up in staging? I just am not a fan of this hero. I know some people really like him. I do not. The next grouping of heroes are just some dwarves that never made it into the series. I played a lot of dwarf decks early because that was the first trait that was really developed, and then I tried to stay away from playing dwarves. So we had Oin, 8 threat, 2/1/1/4 spirit. When you control at least 5 dwarf characters, Oin gains +1 attack and a tactics resource icon. That's fine. That's a good ability. And then Bomber, 8 threat, 0/1/2/5 lore. When counting the number of dwarf characters you control, Bomber counts as 2. He's a great defender. He helps you get to that 5 dwarf limit. Again, nothing really wrong with him. I just got tired of playing dwarves, and some of them didn't make the cut. Finally, Balin, 9 threat, 2/1/2/4 leadership. Response: pay 1 resource from his resource pool to cancel a shadow effect just triggered during an attack, then deal the enemy another shadow card. Again, another good ability. I just got tired of playing dwarves, and a few of them didn't make it. All right, the next group of heroes are heroes that arrived too late in the card pool for me to get them in play. Spirit Aragorn was the last hero released, and I didn't even play the Fortress of Nirn for this series. I am just going to link the video with the Hobbits I did a long time ago. 12 threat, 2/3/2/5, Dunedain, Ranger, Scout, Sentinel. Exhaust Aragorn, choose a location in the staging area until the end of the phase. That location gets -X threat, where X is Aragorn's willpower. If this effect reduces a location's threat to 0, place 1 progress on it. That's a fine ability, and having Spirit Aragorn is fun because there's other cards you can put on him to give him the different spheres and stuff. It's fine. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. I know a wizard is never supposed to be late, but Saruman arrived very late. 13 threat lore, 3/4/2/4, the Starry Isengard. When a player card effect would reduce your threat by any amount, reduce that amount by 1 to 1, While playing an event with the printed Doomed keyword, Saruman gains the printed Leadership, Spirit, and Tactics icons, and then Response after you play a card with the Doomed keyword, Ready Saruman. I really wanted to play this guy, but the quests I had left weren't really great for him. And then Thorin Stonehelm, he also came late. He was a dwarf, so I wasn't playing any more dwarf decks, but he has a neat ability, so he's Tactics, and he has 1 willpower, 3 attack, 1 defense, 4 hit points. Dwarf, Noble, Warrior. Response: after Thorin Stonehelm is declared as an attacker, discard the top card of your deck to deal 1 damage to an enemy engaged with you. There's a lot of fun decks you could do with that. He has a pretty neat ability. And then Thranduil, he came out in Fire in the Night, so there was really only a cycle's worth of quests to play. 9 threat leadership, 1/1/3/4. Sylvan, Noble, combat action. Play a Sylvan ally from your hand. You do not need a resource match for this ally. So he lets you put an ally into play, paying the ally's costs in the combat phase. Very, very fun. I just wasn't playing any more Sylvan decks when he came out. So he didn't make it into my series, unfortunately, because he's pretty cool. The next group of heroes are heroes that I actively tried to get into a deck and then ultimately never was able to do it. So we have Naasea. I wanted to play at least one quest with her. Tactics, 8 threat, 1/2/2/4. Corsair Warrior. Resources in Naasea's resource pool cannot be used to pay for allies. Action. While Naasea is attacking or defending, you spend a resource from her to give her +2 attack or defense for this attack. That's fun, and you don't have to play Tactics allies. There's plenty of decks that only use Tactics events and attachments. I would try to get her into a deck, and then it wouldn't work for the quest I was playing, and then kind of forget about her. And that's kind of the theme for all of these heroes. I, at one point, would try to play a quest with them, and then move on, and then forget that I still hadn't used them in a quest yet. Like Tom Cotton, he's a Hobbit, 8 threat, 1/1/3/3 tactics. While you are engaged with an enemy with an engagement cost higher than your threat, the first Hobbit ally you play each round does not require resource match. Response, after a Hobbit ally enters play, it gets +2 attack until the end of the round. That's fine, he's fun. I just never got him in play. Another hero that I tried to use in a couple decks and it didn't work for the quest I was trying him for was Leadership Éomer. 10 threat, 1/3/2/4. Rohan, Noble Warrior. Response, after Éomer commits to the quest, spend 1 resource from his resource pool to declare him as an attacker and resolve his attack against an enemy in the staging area. I love heroes that attack into the staging area. I'm really bummed that I never got him into a deck. Same with Lanwyn. She's a 9 threat Dale Scout Spirit hero. Ranged. Response, after an encounter card with Surge is revealed, either ready Lanwyn or give her +2 willpower until the end of the phase. I never built just a real good scout deck at any point in the series, and she definitely would have been in that deck. I did try her for a couple of the quests that I thought had a lot of Surge, but ultimately I went with a different hero that seemed to work better for that quest. Hama is also a hero that I really wanted to play at least once and never did. A 9 threat tactics Rohan Warrior hero. 1/3/1/4. Response, after Hama is declared as an attacker, return a tactics event from your discard pile, limit 3 times per game. That's not on my card. Then choose and discard 1 card from your hand. He'd work good with like Elven Light. He could have been fun. I just never got him into play, unfortunately. Same with Tactics Theoden. I really wanted to use him. He works better in multiplayer, but he also could have been fun. 12 threat, 2/3/2/4. Rohan Noble Warrior Sentinel. Each hero with the printed Tactics resource icon gets +1 willpower. That's global, so that is a little better, but you know, your Tactics heroes usually aren't questing, and his Spirit version is so good, and all of his toys are in Spirit, so it's just a lot easier to play the Spirit version. Alright, here are the heroes that I cannot believe I did not get into play at any point in this series. Like, when I was looking at the heroes that I didn't play, I was shocked these guys did not make it, and Rohan features prominently here. But first up is Tactics Prince Imrahil Gondor Noble Warrior. 11 threat, 2/3/2/4. Combat action, spend 1 resource from Prince Imrahil's resource pool to search the top 5 cards of your deck for an ally who shares at least 1 trait with him and put that ally into play. Shuffle your deck. At the end of the phase, if that ally is still in play, shuffle it into your deck, limit once per round. What a fun ability, and I really wish I would have got him into play at some point. I don't know why I didn't. I think I just forgot that he was an option once he became available, and I never got him into play. What a shame. The same goes for the next hero, Fastrid, 9 threat Spirit, 1/2/3/3 Rohan Warrior. After Fastrid defends an enemy attack, response, return it to the staging area and reduce your threat by 2. That's amazing, and you can kill it in the staging area with heroes that can attack the staging area. So what a fun hero. He keeps your threat low. Great hero. I really wish I would have got him into play. All right, the next one is also a hero that has an amazing defensive ability. It's Erkenbrand. 10 threat leadership, 1/2/3/4 Sentinel Rohan Warrior. While Erkenbrand is defending, he gains response. Deal 1 damage to Erkenbrand to cancel a shadow effect just triggered. I mean, put Armored Destier on him. He can basically cancel 2 shadows. He's great. He's really, really great. I think it just boiled down to he was leadership, and a lot of times I had a tactics hero doing my defense. So that's maybe why Fastrid and Erkenbrand didn't make it in. Not sure. This last hero, man, I really wanted to get into the series, and I'm really bummed he didn't make it. It was Elfhelm. 10 threat leadership, 2/2/2/4. Rohan, Scout Warrior. Each Spirit hero with a mount gets +1 willpower. Each Tactics hero with a mount gets +1 attack. And each Leadership hero with a mount gets +1 defense. Awesome. So much fun. So bummed he didn't make it into the series. Okay, so here are all the heroes. I actually have to stand on a chair to try to get them all in focus. I hit my head on the ceiling because I'm 6'3". So here's all the heroes. Tactics is definitely the sphere that has the most heroes that didn't make it in. Not sure what that means, but that is the way it shook out. So yeah, I really wish more of these heroes would have made it into the series, but I did play 80 different heroes, so I feel like that's pretty good. And I should be able to get a couple of these into play when I go back and fill in the holes of the quests that I skipped. All right, so kind of cool. I'm glad I kept everything separate, so I was able to quickly do this. And I guess if people want to look at these heroes and maybe come up with some sort of analysis or something of like why they think there was some sort of trend or whatever, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on why certain heroes didn't see play versus other ones. It probably just comes down to personal preference and the type of decks I like to build. And these are, of course, just my opinions. Everybody has their own play style and preferences, and that's good. All right, everybody, I hope this was interesting and looking forward to seeing your comments. And I just wanted to give an update on what was going on with my YouTube channel. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.